ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaste my dear friends. This is video number 3 on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna Parmahamsa. This video starts with Path of love is easy. The path of knowledge leads to truth, as does the path that combines knowledge and love. The path of love too leads to this goal. The way of love is as true as the way of knowledge. All paths ultimately lead to the same truth. But as long as God keeps the feeling of ego in us, it is easier to follow the path of love. The Vijnani sees that Brahma is immovable and actionless like Mount Sumeru. This universe consists of three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. They are in Brahma, but Brahma is unattached. God's supernatural powers. The Vijnani further sees that what is Brahma is the Bhagavan, the personal God. He who is beyond the three gunas is the Bhagavan, with his six supernatural powers, living beings, the universe, mind, intelligence, love, renunciation, knowledge. All these are the manifestations of his power. With a laugh, if an aristocrat has neither house nor property, or if he has been forced to sell them, one does not call him an aristocrat anymore or laugh. God is endowed with the six supernatural powers. If he were not, who would obey him or laugh? Different manifestations of God's power. Just to see how picturesque this universe is. How many things were there are. The sun, moon and stars, and how many varieties of living beings. Big and small, good and bad, strong and weak, some endowed with more power, some with less. Vidyasagar. Has he endowed some more power and others with less? Master. As the all-pervading spirit, he exists in all beings, even in the ant. But the manifestations of his power are different in different beings. Otherwise, how can one person put 10 to fight while another can't face even one? And why do all people respect you? Have you grown a pair of horns? Laughter. You have more compassion and learning. Therefore, people honor you and come to pay you their respects. Don't you agree with me? Vidyasagar smiled. The master continued. There is nothing in mere scholarship. The object of study is to find means of knowing God and realizing Him. A holy man had a book. When asked what it contained, he opened it and showed that on all the pages were written the words Om Rama and nothing else. What is the significance of the Gita? It is what you find by repeating the word 10 times. It is then reversed into Tagi, which means a person who has renounced everything for God. And the lesson of the Gita is, O man, renounce everything and seek God alone. Whether a man is a monk or a householder, he has to shake off all attachment from his mind. Chaitanya Deva set out on a pilgrimage to southern India. One day he saw a man reading the Gita. Another man, seated at a distance, was listening and weeping. His eyes were swimming in tears. Chaitanya Deva asked him, "Do you understand all this?" The man said, "No, Revered Sir, I do not understand a word of the text." "Then why are you crying?" asked Chaitanya. The devotee said, "I see Arjuna's chariot before me. I see Lord Krishna and Arjuna seated in front of it talking. I see this and I weep." Why does a Vijnani keep an attitude of love towards God? The answer is that I consciousness persists. It disappears in the state of samadhi, no doubt, but it comes back. In the case of ordinary people, the I never disappears. You may cut down the aswatha tree, but the next day sprouts shoot up, all up. Ego causes our sufferings. Even after the attainment of knowledge, this I consciousness comes up. Nobody knows from where. You dream of a tiger, then you awake, but your heart keeps on palpitating. All our suffering is due to this I. The cow cries Hamba, which means I. That's why it suffers so much. It is yoked to the plow and made to work in rain and sun. Then it may be killed by the butcher. From its hide shoes are made, and also drums, which are mercilessly beaten. Laughter. Still, it does not escape suffering. At last, strings are made out of its entails for the bows used in carding cotton. Then it no longer says Hamba Hamba, I, but Tuhu Tuhu, thou, thou. Only then are its troubles over. O Lord, I am the servant, thou art the master. I am the child, thou art the mother. Once Rama asked Hanuman, "How do you look on me?" And Hanuman replied, "O Rama, as long as I have the feeling of I see that thou art the whole and I am a part. Thou art the master and I am thy servant. But when, O Rama, I have the knowledge of truth, then I realize that thou art I and I am thou." The relationship of master and servant is the proper one. Since this I must remain, let the rascal be God's servant. Evil of I and mine. I and mine, these constitute ignorance. My house, my wealth, my learning, my possessions, the attitude that prompts one to say such things comes of ignorance. On the contrary, the attitude born of knowledge is, O God, thou art the master and all these things belong to thee. House, family, children, attendants, friends are thine. One should constantly remember death. Nothing will survive death. We are born into this world to perform certain duties, like the people who come from the countryside to Calcutta on business. If a visitor goes to a rich man's garden, the superintendent says to him, "This is our garden, this is our lake," and so forth. But if the superintendent is dismissed for some misdeed, he can't carry away even his mango wood chest. He sends it secretly by the gatekeeper. Laughter. God laughs on two occasions. He laughs when the physician says to the patient's mother, "Don't be afraid, mother, I shall certainly cure your boy." God laughs, saying to himself, "I am going to take his life," and this man says he will save it. The physician thinks he is the master, forgetting that God is the master. God laughs again when two brothers divide their land with a string, saying to each other, "This side is mine and that side is yours." He laughs and says to himself, "The whole universe belongs to me," but they say they own this portion or that portion. Can one know God through reasoning? Be his servant, surrender yourself to him, and then pray to him. To Vidyasagar with a smile, "Well, what is your attitude?" Vidyasagar smiling, "Someday I shall confide it to you." All laugh. Master laughing, "God cannot be realized through mere scholarly reasoning." Intoxicated with divine love, the Master saying, "Who is there that can understand what Mother Kali is?" Even the six darsanas are powerless to reveal her. It is she, the scriptures say, that is the inner self of the yogi who in self-discovery all his joy, see that of her own sweet will inhabits every living thing. The macrocosm and microcosm rest in the mother's womb. Now do you see how vast it is? In the Muladhara, the yogi meditates on her, and in the Sahasrara, who but Shiva has beheld her as she really is. Within the lotus wilderness she sports beside her mate, the swan. When man aspires to understand her, Ramprasad must smile. To think of knowing her, he says, is quite as laughable as to imagine one can swim across the boundless sea. But while my mind has understood, alas, my heart has not. Though but a dwarf, it still would strive to make a captive of the moon. Continuing, the master said, "Did you notice the macrocosm and microcosm rest in the mother's womb? Now do you see how vast it is?" Again, the poet says, "Even the six darsanas are powerless to reveal her. She cannot be realized by means of mere scholarship, power of faith. One must have faith and love. Let me tell you how powerful faith is. A man was about to cross the sea from Ceylon to India. Vibhishana said to him, "Tie this thing in a corner of your wearing cloth and you will cross the sea safely. You will be able to walk on the water, but be sure not to examine it, or you will sink." The man was walking easily on the water of the sea. Such is the strength of faith. When having gone part of the way, he thought, what is this wonderful thing Vishnu has given me, that I can walk even on the water? He untied the knot and found only a leaf with the name of Rama written on it. Oh, just this, he thought, and instantly he sank. There is a popular saying that Hanuman jumped over the sea through his faith in Rama's name, but Rama himself had to build a bridge. If a man has faith in God, then he need not be afraid through though he may have committed sin, nay, the vilest sin. Then Sri Ramakrishna sang a song glorifying the power of faith. If only I can pass away repeating Durga's name, how canst thou then, O blessed one, withhold from me deliverance, wretched though I may be? The Master continued, faith and devotion. One realizes God easily through devotion. He is grasped through ecstasy of love. With these words, the Master sang again, how are you trying, O my mind, to know the nature of God? You are groping like a madman locked in a dark room. He is grasped through ecstatic love. How can you fathom him without it? Only through affirmation, never negation can you know him. Neither through Veda, nor through Tantra, nor the six darshanas. It is in love's elixir only that he delights, O mind. He dwells in the body's inmost depths in everlasting joy. And for that love the mighty yogis practice yoga from age to age. When love awakes, the Lord like a magnet draws to him the soul. He is he it is, says Ram Prasad, that I approach as mother. But must I give away the secret here in the marketplace? From the hints I have given, O mind, guess what that being is. While singing, the master went into samadhi. He was seated on the bench, facing west, the palms of his hands joined together, his body erect and motionless. Everyone watched him expectantly. Vidyasagar too was speechless and could not take his eyes from the master. Brahma and Shakti are identical. After a time, Sri Ramakrishna showed signs of regaining the normal state. He drew a deep breath and said with a smile, the means of realizing God are ecstasy of love and devotion. That is, one must love God. He who is Brahma is addressed as the mother. He it is, say Ram Prasad, that I approach as mother, but must I give away the secret here in the marketplace? From the hints I have given, O mind, guess what that being is. Ram Prasad asked the mind only to guess the nature of God. He wishes it to understand that what is called Dharma in the Vedas is addressed by him as the mother. He who is attributeless also has attributes. He who is Brahma is also Shakti. When thought of as inactive, He is called Brahma, and when thought of as the creator, preserver, and destroyer, he is called the primordial energy Kali. Brahma and Shakti are identical, like fire and its power to burn. When we talk of fire, we automatically mean also its power to burn. Again, the fire's power to burn implies the fire itself. If you accept the one, must accept the other. Brahma alone is addressed as the mother. This is because a mother is an object of great love. One is able to realize God just through love, ecstasy of feeling, devotion, love, and faith. These are the means. Listen to a song. As is a man's meditation, so is his feeling of love. As is a man's feeling of love, so is his gain. And faith is the root of all. If in the nectar lake of Mother Kali's feet my mind remains immersed, of little use are worship, oblations, or sacrifice. Growth of divine love lessens worldly duties. What is needed is absorption in God, loving Him intensely. The nectar lake is the lake of immortality. A man sinking in it does not die but becomes immortal. Some people believe that by thinking of God too much, the mind becomes deranged, but that is not true. God is the lake of nectar, the ocean of immortality. He is of little use or worship, oblations, or sacrifice. God is the lake of nectar, the ocean of immortality. He is called the immortal in the Vedas. Sinking in it, one does not die, but verily transcends death. Of little use are worship, oblations, or sacrifice. If a man comes to love God, he need not trouble himself much about these activities. One needs a fan only as long as there is no breeze. The fan may be laid aside if the southern breeze blows. Then what need is there of a fan? To Vidyasagar, the activities that you are engaged in are good. It is very good if you can perform them in a selfless spirit, renouncing egotism, giving up the idea that you are the doer. Through such action, one develops love and devotion to God and ultimately realizes Him. The more you come to love God, the less you will be inclined to perform action. When the daughter-in-law is with the child, her mother-in-law gives her less work to do. As time goes by, she is given less and less work. When the time of delivery nears, she is not allowed to do any work at all, lest it should hurt the child or cause difficulty at the time of birth. By these philanthropic activities, you are really doing good to yourself. If you can do them disinterestedly, your mind will become pure and you will develop love of God. As soon as you have that love, you will realize Him. Man cannot really help the world. God alone does that. He who has created the sun and the moon, who has put love for their children in parents' hearts, endowed noble souls with compassion, and holy men and devotees with divine love, The man who works for others without any selfish motive really does good to himself. There is gold buried in your heart, but you are not yet aware of it. It is covered with a thin layer of clay. Once you are aware of it, all these activities of yours will lessen. After the birth of her child, the daughter-in-law in the family busies herself with it alone. Everything she does is only for the child. Her mother-in-law does not let her do any household duties. Parable of the woodcutter. Go forward. A woodcutter once entered a forest to gather wood. A brahmachari said to him, "Go forward." He obeyed the injunction and discovered some sandalwood trees. After a few days he reflected, "The holy man asked me to go forward. He did not tell me to stop here." So he went forward and found a silver mine. After a few days he went still further and discovered a gold mine, and next mines of diamonds and precious stones. With these he became immensely rich. Through selfless work, love of God grows in the heart. Then, through His grace, one realizes Him. In course of time, God can be seen. One can talk to Him as I am talking to you. In silent wonder, they all sat listening to the Master's words. It seems to them that the goddess of wisdom herself, seated on Sri Ramakrishna's tongue, was addressing these words not merely to Vidyasagar but to all humanity for its good. It was nearly 9 o'clock in the evening. The master was about to leave. "Master," to Vidyasagar with a smile, "the words I have spoken are really superfluous. You know all this. You simply are not conscious of it. There are countless gems in the coffers of Varuna, but he himself is not aware of them." Vidyasagar with a smile, "You may say as you like." Master smiling, "Oh yes, there are many wealthy people who don't know the names of all their servants and are even unaware of many of the precious things in their house or love." Everybody was delighted with the master's conversation. Again addressing Vidyasagar, he said with a smile, "Please visit the temple garden sometime. I mean the garden of Rasmani. It is a charming place." Vidyasagar, "Oh, of course I shall go. You have so kindly come here to see me, and shall I not return your visit?" Master, "Visit me? Oh, never think of such a thing." Vidyasagar, "Why, sir? Why do you say that? May I ask you to explain?" Master smiling, "You see, we are like small fishing boats. All smile. We can ply in small canals and shallow waters and also in big rivers. But you are a ship. You may run around on the way." All laugh. Vidyasagar remains silent. Sri Ramakrishna said with a laugh, "But even a ship can go there at this season." Vidyasagar smiling, "Yes, this is the monsoon season." All laugh. And said to himself, "This is indeed the monsoon season of newly awakened love." At such times one doesn't care for prestige or formalities. Sri Ramakrishna then took leave of Vidyasagar, who with his friends escorted the master to the main gate, leading the way with a lighted candle in his hand. Before leaving the room, the master prayed for the family's welfare, going into an ecstatic mood as he did so. As soon as the master and the devotees reached the gate, they saw an unexpected sight and stood still. In front of them was a bearded gentleman of fair complexion, aged about 36. He wore his clothes like a Bengali, but on his head was a white turban tied after the fashion of the Sikhs. No sooner did he see the master than he fell prostrate, prostrate before him, turban and all. When he stood up, the master said, "Who is this Balram? Why so late in the evening?" "Balram, I have been waiting here a long time, sir." "Master, why didn't you come in?" "Balram, all were listening to you. I did not like to disturb you." The master got into the carriage with his companions. Vidyasagar to M softly. "Shall I pay the carriage hire?" M. "Oh, don't bother please, it is taken care of." Vidyasagar and his friends bowed to Sri Ramakrishna and the carriage started for Dakshineshwar. But the little group with the venerable Vidyasagar at their head, holding the lighted candle, stood at the gate and gazed after the master until he was out of sight. Chapter 4. Advice to Householder. The master was conversing with Kedar and some other devotees in his room in the temple garden. This was August 13, 1882. Kedar was a government official and had spent several years at Dhaka in East Bengal, where he had become a friend of Vijay Goswami. The two would spend a great part of their time together talking about Sri Ramakrishna and his spiritual experiences. Kedar had once been a member of the Brahmosmas. He followed the path of bhakti. Spiritual talk always brought tears to his eyes. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Kedar was very happy that day, having arranged a religious festival for Sri Ramakrishna. A singer had been hired by Ram and the whole day passed in joy. Secret of Divine Communion. The Master explained to the devotees the secret of communion with God. Master. With the realization of Satchitananda, one goes into Samadhi. Then duties drop away. Suppose I have been talking about the Ostad and he arrives. What need is there of talking about him then? How long does the bee buzz around? So long as it is not sitting on a flower, but it will not do for the sadhaka to renounce duty. He should perform his duties such as worship, japa, meditation, prayer and pilgrimage. If you see someone engaged in reasoning even after he has realized God, you may liken him to a bee, which also buzzes a little even after while sipping honey from a flower. The master was highly pleased with the Ostard's music. He said to the musician, there is a special manifestation of God's power in a man who has any outstanding gift, such as proficiency in music. Musician, sir, what is the way to realize God? Master, bhakti is the one essential thing. To be sure, God exists in all beings. Who then is a devotee? He whose mind dwells on God. But this is not possible as long as one has egotism and vanity. The water of God's grace cannot collect on the high mound of egotism. It runs down. I am a mere machine. Master's respect for other faiths. To Kedar and the other devotees, God can be realized through all paths. All religions are true. The important thing is to reach the roof. You can reach it by stone stairs or by wooden stairs or by bamboo steps or by a rope. You can also climb up by a bamboo pole. Many names of one God. You may say that there are many errors and superstitions in another religion. I should reply, suppose there are. Every religion has errors. Everyone thinks that his watch alone gives the correct time. It is enough to have yearning for God. It is enough to love Him and feel attracted to Him. Don't you know that God is the inner guide? He sees the longing of our heart and the yearning of our soul. Suppose a man has several sons. The older boys address him distinctly as Baba or Papa, but the babies can at best call him Ba or Pa. Now, will the father be angry with those who address him in this indistinct way? The father knows that they too are calling him, only they cannot pronounce his name well. All children are the same to the Father. Likewise, the devotees call on God alone, though by different names. They call on one person only. God is one, but His names are many. Thursday, August 24, 1882. Sri Ramakrishna was talking to Hajra on the long northeast veranda of his room when M arrived. He saluted the master reverently. Spiritual disciplines necessary at the beginning. Master, I should like to visit Ishwar Chandra Vidasagar a few times more. The painter the painter first draws the general outlines and then puts in the details and colors at his leisure. The molder first makes the image out of clay, then plasters it, then gives it a coat of whitewash, and last of all paints it with a brush. All these steps must be taken successively. Vidyasagar is full ready, but his inner stuff is covered with a thin layer. He is now engaged in doing good works, but he doesn't know what is within himself. God is hidden within him. God dwells within us. If one knows that, one feels like giving up all activities and praying to God with a yearning soul. So the master talked with M, now standing, now pacing up and down the long veranda. Master, a little spiritual discipline is necessary in order to know what lies within. M. Is it necessary to practice discipline all through life? Master, no. But one must be up and doing in the beginning. After that, one need not work hard. The helmsman stands up and clutches the rudder firmly as long as the boat is passing through waves, storms, high wind, or around the curves of a river. But he relaxes after steering through them. As soon as the boat passes the curves and the helmsman feels a favorable wind, he sits comfortably and just touches the rudder. Next, he prepares to unfurl the sail and gets ready for a smoke. Likewise, the aspirant enjoys peace and calm after passing the waves and storms of woman and gold. Woman and gold is the obstruction to yoga. Some are born with the characteristics of the yogi, but they too should be careful. It is woman and gold alone that is the obstacle. It makes them deviate from the path of yoga and drags them into worldliness. Perhaps they have some desire for enjoyment. After fulfilling their desire, they again direct their minds to God and thus recover their former state of mind fit for the practice of yoga. Have you ever seen the spring trap for fish called the Satka Kal? No, sir, I have not seen it, master. They use it in our part of the country. One end of a bamboo pole is fastened in the ground and the other is bent over with a catch. From this end, a line with a hook hangs over the water with weight tied to the hook. When the fish whirls the weight, suddenly the bamboo jumps up and regains its upright position. Again, take a pair of scales for example. If a weight is placed on one side, the lower needle moves away from the upper one. The lower needle is the mind and the upper one God. The meeting of the two is yoga. Unless the mind becomes steady, there cannot be yoga. It is the wind of worldliness that always disturbs the mind, which may be likened to a candle flame. If that flame doesn't move at all, then one is said to have attained yoga. Woman and gold alone is the obstacle to yoga. Always analyze what you see. What is there in the body of a woman? Only such things as blood, flesh, fat, entrails, and the like. Why should one love such a body? Sometimes I used to assume a Rajasic mood in order to practice renunciation. Once I had the desire to put on a gold em- embroidered robe, wear a ring on my finger, and smoke a hubble bubble with a long pipe. Mathur Babu procured all these things for me. I wore the gold embroidered robe and said to myself after a while, mind, this is what is called a gold embroidered robe. Then I took it off and threw it away. I could not stand the robe any more. Again I said to myself, mind, this is called a shawl, and this is a ring, and this smoking a hubble bubble with a long pipe. I threw those things away once for all, and the desire to enjoy them never arose in my mind again. It was almost dusk. The master and Anne stood talking alone near the door on the southeast veranda. Master to Anne. The mind of the yogi is always fixed on God, always absorbed in the self. You can recognize such a man by merely looking at him. His eyes are wide open with an aimless look like the eyes of mother bird hatching her eggs. Her her entire mind is fixed on the eggs, and there is a vacant look in her eyes. Can you show me such a picture? M. I shall try to get one. As evening came on, the temples were lighting up. Sri Ramakrishna was seated on his small couch, meditating on the Divine Mother. Then he chanted the names of God. Incense was burnt in the room where an oil lamp had been lighted. Sounds of conch shells and gongs came floating on the air as the evening worship began in the temple of Kali. The light of the moon flooded all the quarters. The master again spoke to him. God and worldly duties. Master, perform your duties in an unselfish spirit. The work that Vidyasagar is engaged in is very good. Always try to perform your duties without desiring any result. And yes, sir, but may I know if one can realize God while performing one's duties? Can Rama and desire coexist? The other day I read in a Hindi couplet, where Rama is there desire cannot be, where desire is there Rama cannot be. Master, all without exception perform work. Even to chant the name and glories of God is work, as is the meditation of the non-dualist on I am He. Breathing is also an activity. There is no way of renouncing work altogether. So do your work, but surrender the result to God. God and worldly duties. And, sir, may I make an effort to earn more money? Master, it is permissible to do so to maintain a religious family. You may try to increase your income, but in an honest way. The goal of life is not the earning of money, but the service of God. Money is not harmful if it is devoted to the service of God. And how long should a man feel obliged to do his duty towards his wife and children, Master? As long as they feel pinched for food and clothing, but one need not take the responsibility of a son when he is able to support himself. When the young fledgling learns to pick its own food, its mother packs it if it comes to her for food. And how long must one do one's duty, Master? The blossom drops off when the fruit appears. One doesn't have to do one's duty after the attainment of God, nor does one feel like doing it then. If a drunkard takes too much liquor, he cannot retain consciousness. If he takes only 2 or 3 glasses, he can go on with his work. As you advance nearer and nearer to God, He will reduce your activities little by little. Have no fear. Finish the few duties you have at hand, and then you will have peace. When the mistress of the house goes to bathe after finishing her cooking and other household duties, she won't come back, however you may shout after her. Different groups of devotees. And sir, what is the meaning of realization of God? What do you mean by God vision? How does one attain it, Master? According to the Vaishnavas, The aspirants and the seers of God may be divided into different groups. These are the Parvartaka, the Sadhaka, the Siddha, and the Siddha of the Siddha. He who has just set foot on the path may be called a Parvartaka. He may be called a sadhaka who has for some time been practicing spiritual disciplines such as worship, japa, meditation, and the chanting of God's name and glories. He may be called a Siddha who has known from his inner experience that God exists. An analogy is given in the Vedanta to explain this. The master of the house is asleep in a dark room. Someone is groping in the darkness to find him. He touches the couch and says, "No, it is not he." He touches the window and says, "No, it is not he." He touches the door and says, "No, it is not he." This is known in the Vedanta as the process of neti neti. Not this, not this. At last his hand touches the master's body and he exclaims, "Here he is." In other words, he is now conscious of the existence of the master. He has found him, but he doesn't yet know him intimately. There is another type known as the Siddha of the Siddha, the supremely perfect. It is quite a different thing when one talks to the Master intimately, when one knows God very intimately through love and devotion. A Siddha has undoubtedly attained God, but the supremely perfect has known God very intimately. Different modes of aspirants. But in order to realize God, one must assume one of these attitudes: Santa, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, or Madhur. Santa, the serene attitude. The rishis of olden days, olden times, had this attitude toward God. They did not desire any worldly enjoyment. It is like the single minded devotion of a wife to her husband. She knows that her husband is the embodiment of beauty and love, a veritable madan. Dasa, the attitude of a servant towards his master. Hanuman had this attitude towards Rama. He felt the strength of a lion when he worked for Rama. A wife feels this mood also. She serves her husband with all her heart and soul. A mother also has a little of this attitude as Yasoda had towards Krishna. Sakhya, the attitude of friendship. Friends say to one another, "Come here and sit near me." Sri Dama and other friends sometimes fed Krishna with fruit, part of which they had already eaten, and sometimes climbed on his shoulders. Vatsalya, the attitude of a mother towards her child. This was Yasoda's attitude towards Krishna. The wife too has a little of this. She feeds her husband with her very lifeblood, as it were. The mother feels happy only when the child has eaten to his heart's content. Yasoda would roam about with butter in her hand in order to feel Krishna. Madhur, the attitude of a woman towards her paramour. Radha had this attitude towards Krishna. The wife also feels it for her husband. This attitude includes all the other four. And when one sees God, does one see him with these eyes, Master? God cannot be seen with these physical eyes. In the course of spiritual discipline, one gets a love body endowed with love eyes, love ears, and so on. One sees God with those love eyes. One hears the voice of God with those love ears. One even gets a sexual organ made of love. At these words, M burst out laughing. The master continued, unannoyed with this love body, the soul communes with God. M again became serious, seeing God everywhere. Master, but this is not possible without intense love of God. One sees nothing but God everywhere. When one loves Him with great intensity, it is like a person with jaundice who sees everything yellow. Then one feels, I am verily He. A drunkard deeply intoxicated says, verily I am Kali. The gopis, intoxicated with love, exclaimed, verily I am Krishna. One who thinks of God day and night beholds Him everywhere. It is like a man seeing flames on all sides after he has gazed fixedly at one flame for some time. But that is not the real flame flashed through M's mind. Sri Ramakrishna, who could read a man's inmost thought, said, one doesn't lose consciousness by thinking of Him who is all spirit, all consciousness. Shivanath once remarked that too much thinking about God confounds the brain. Thereupon I said to him, how can one become unconscious by thinking of consciousness? And yes, sir, I realize that. It is not like thinking of an unreal object. How can a man lose his intelligence if he always fixes his mind on Him whose very nature is eternal intelligence? Master, with pleasure, it is through God's grace that you understand that. The doubts of the mind will not disappear without His grace. Doubts do not disappear without self realization. But one need not fear anything if one has received the grace of God. It is rather easy for a child to stumble if he holds his father's hand, but there can be no such fear if the father holds the child's hand. A man does not have to suffer any more if God, in His grace, removes his doubts and reveals Himself to him. But this grace descends upon him only after he has prayed to God with intense yearning of heart and practiced spiritual discipline. The mother's the mother feels compassion for her child when she sees him running about breathlessly. She has been hiding herself, now she appears before the child. But why should God make us run about? Thought M. Immediately Sri Ramakrishna said, it is His will that we should run about a little. Then it is great fun. God has created the world in play as it were. This is called Mahamaya, the great illusion. Therefore, one must take refuge in the Divine Mother, the cosmic power itself. It is she who has bound us with the shackles of illusion. The realization of God is possible only when those shackles are severed. Worship of the Divine Mother. The Master continued, one must propitiate the Divine Mother, the primal energy, in order to obtain God's grace. God Himself is Mahamaya. He deludes the world with her illusion and conjures up the magic of creation, preservation and destruction. She has spread this veil of ignorance before our eyes. We can go into the inner chamber only when she lets us pass through the door. Leaving outside, we see only outer objects but not that eternal being, existence, knowledge, bliss absolute. Therefore, it is stated in the Purana that deities like Brahma praised Mahamaya for the destruction of the demons Madhu and Katbha. Shakti alone is the root of the universe. That primal energy has two aspects, Vidya and Avidya. Avidya deludes, Avidya conjures up woman and gold which casts the spell. Vidya begets devotion, kindness, wisdom and love which lead one to God. This Vidya must be propitiated, and that is the purpose of the rites of Shakti worship. The devotees assumed various attitudes towards Shakti in order to propitiate her. The attitude of a handmaid, a hero, or a child. A hero's attitude is to please her even as a man pleases a woman through intercourse. The worship of Shakti is extremely difficult. It is no joke. I passed 2 years as the handmaid and companion of the Divine Mother, but my natural attitude has always been that of a child towards its mother. I regard the breasts of any woman as those of my own mother. Master's attitude towards women. Women are all of them the veritable image of Shakti. In northwest India, the bride holds a knife in her hand at the time of marriage. In Bengal, a nut cutter. The meaning is that the bridegroom, with the help of the bride, who is the embodiment of the divine power, will sever the boundaries of illusion. This is the heroic attitude. I never worshipped the Divine Mother that way. My attitude towards her is that of a child towards its mother. The bride is the very embodiment of Shakti. Have not you noticed at the marriage ceremony how the groom sits behind like an idiot, but the bride, she is so bold? His love for Narendra. After attaining God, one forgets his external splendor, the glories of his creation. One doesn't think of God's glory after one has seen him. The devotee, once immersed in God's bliss, doesn't calculate any more about outer things. When I see Narendra, I don't need to ask him, what is your name? Where do you live? Where is the time for such questions? Once a man asked Hanuman which day of the fortnight it was. Brother, said Hanuman, I do not know anything of the day of the week or the fortnight or the position of the stars. I think of Rama alone. October 16, 1882. It was Monday, a few days before the Durga Puja, the festival of the Divine Mother. Sri Ramakrishna was in a very happy state of mind, for Narendra was with him. Narendra had brought 2 or 3 young members of the Brahmosmas to the temple garden. Besides these, Rakhal, Ramlal, Hazra, and M were with the master. Narendra had his midday meal with Sri Ramakrishna. Afterwards, a temporary bed was made on the floor of the master's room so that the disciples might rest a while. A mat was spread over which was placed a quilt covered with a white sheet. A few cushions and pillows completed the simple bed. Like a child, the master sat near Narendranath on the bed. He talked with the devotees in great delight, with a radiant smile lighting his face and his eyes fixed on Narendra. He was giving them various spiritual teachings, interspersing, interspersing these with incident from his own life. Master, after I had experienced Samadhi, my mind craved intensely to hear only about God. I would always search for places where they were reciting or explaining the sacred books such as the Bhagavata, the Mahabharata, and the Adhyatma Ramana. I used to go to Krishna Kishore to hear him read the Adhyatma Ramayana. Krishna Kishore's faith. What tremendous faith Krishna Kishore had. Once while at Vrindavan, he felt thirsty and went to a well. Near it he saw a man standing. On being asked to draw a little water for him, the man said, I belong to a low caste, sir. You are a Brahmin. How can I draw water for you? Krishna Kishore said, take the name of Shiva. By repeating his holy name, you will make yourself pure. The low caste man did as he was told, and Krishna Kishore, orthodox Brahmin, that he was drank that water. What tremendous faith! Once a holy man came to the bank of the Ganges and lived near the bathing ghat at Aryadaha, not far from Dakshineshwar. We thought of paying him a visit. I said to Haladhari, Krishna Kishore and I are going to see a holy man. Will you come with us? Haladhari replied, what is the use of seeing a mere human body which is no better than a cage of clay? Haladhari was a student of the Gita and Vedanta philosophy and therefore referred to the holy man as a mere cage of clay. I repeated this to Krishna Kishore with great anger. He said, how impudent of Haldari to make such a remark. How can he ridicule as a cage of clay the body of a man who constantly thinks of God, who meditates on Rama and has renounced all for the sake of the Lord? Doesn't he know that such a man is the embodiment of spirit? He was so upset by Haldari's remarks that he would turn his face away from him whenever he met him in the temple garden and stopped speaking to him. Once Krishna Kishore asked him, why have you cast off the sacred thread? In those days of God vision, I felt as if I were passing through the great storm of Aswin and anything had blown away from me. No trace of my old self was left. I lost all consciousness of the world. I could hardly keep my cloth on my body, not to speak of the sacred thread. I said to Krishna Kishore, oh, you will understand if you ever happen to be as intoxicated with God as I was. And it actually came to pass. He too passed through a God intoxicated state when he would repeat only the word Om and shut himself up alone in his room. His relatives thought he was actually mad and called in a physician. Ram Kaviraj of Natagore came to see him. Krishna Kishore said to the physician, cure me, sir, of my malady, if you please, but not of my own. All laugh. One day I went to see him and found him in a pansy mood. When I asked him about it, he said the tax collector was there. He threatened to dispose of my brass pots, my cups, and my few utensils if I did not pay the tax, so I am worried. I said, but why should you worry about it? Let him take away your pots and pans. Let him arrest you, your body even. How will that affect you? For your nature is that of Kha. Narendra and the others laughed. He used to say to me that he was the spirit, all pervading as the sky. He had got that idea from the Adhyatma Ramayana. I used to teach him now and then, addressing him as Kha. Therefore I said to him that day with a smile, you are Kha, taxes cannot move you. So I conclude this video here. Next video number 4 will start with Master's outspokenness. Thank you for watching this video. Namaskar, my dear friends.